In the endless darkness of space, the Valari Empire stood as one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Their fleet spanned thousands of systems, their rule stretched across entire sectors, and their technology was centuries ahead of most other species. The Valari were proud, disciplined, and elegant, a race that believed themselves unmatched in strength and intelligence. At the center of this mighty empire sat their ruler, Queen Sarathis, the Eternal. Her name alone carried weight across the stars. She had ruled for over 600 years. Her life extended through advanced biosynthesis technology. To her people, she was not just a leader, she was nearly a goddess. Her mind was sharp, her will unshakable, and her voice the law of an empire. Yet even a ruler as wise as Sarathis had her moments of curiosity. One quiet evening aboard the Imperial Palace Station, high above the world of Valara Prime, the Queen listened to her scholars and historians discuss ancient records. Among them was archivist Laron, a thin, silver-skinned Valari known for his fascination with myths. He spoke with unusual excitement that day. "Your Majesty," Laron began, lowering his head respectfully, "we have re-examined the data logs from the ancient Galactic Purge, records from over 3 millennia ago. There is mention of a species called humans. They were unusual." The Queen raised an elegant brow. "Humans?" Laron nodded eagerly. "Yes, my Queen. They were said to be small by Valari standards, fragile in body yet remarkably resilient in spirit. The archives claim they resisted every empire that tried to conquer them. Some reports even say they stood against the Zir Dominion, the Scorned Collective, and the old Valari colonists, sometimes alone." Sarathis leaned back in her throne, a small amused smile forming on her face. "A bold claim. If they were so powerful, where are they now?" Laron hesitated, his silver eyes flickering. "That is unclear. The records say humanity vanished after the Purge. Their homeworld, Earth, was destroyed. Some believe they escaped, but no one has ever found proof." The Queen's amusement deepened. "Then they are nothing more than legend, archivist. A tale for children, perhaps." Around the chamber, the gathered officials chuckled quietly. To them, humans were the same as ghosts. Stories from a primitive age when the galaxy was wild and chaotic. But Laron wasn't finished. "Your Majesty, there is something else. A few weeks ago, one of our outer scout ships reported strange readings near the Mornak Belt in the Andros sector. The energy signatures match old Terran technology, human technology." The laughter in the room stopped. Sarathis tilted her head slightly, her interest caught. "Terran technology? You're certain?" "Yes, my Queen. The patterns are unlike anything currently used. It is as if something ancient has awakened." The Queen stood and walked toward the large viewport overlooking the stars. Her long silver-blue robes shimmered under the soft lights. Beyond the glass, nebulae burned like distant fires, and the cold brilliance of space stretched forever. "Humans," she whispered thoughtfully. "A dead species, a myth. And yet their shadow still lingers." She turned to her council. "Send a scout team. Confirm these readings. If it is indeed human relics, I want them brought to me." Her advisors bowed deeply. "As you command, my Queen." A week later, in the far reaches of the galaxy, the Valari scout vessel Zephyrus glided silently through the Mornak Belt. The region was a graveyard of old battles, fields of twisted metal, shattered ships, and drifting debris that glowed faintly from centuries-old radiation. The air of death clung to the stars here. Captain Threx Varn, commander of the Zephyrus, stood at the front of the bridge. His golden armor reflected the blue light of the console screens. "Activate long-range scanners," he ordered. "Scanning, Captain," replied the technician. "There are hundreds of wrecks here, mostly from the Scorned Wars era. Wait, there's something else." Signal detected. "It's faint, repeating on an old frequency." Threx frowned. "Identify it." The technician worked quickly. It's using ancient Terran code, sir." "No known translation." The captain's mandibles twitched nervously. "Terran, that can't be right." "Confirmed," said the technician. "Signal source is coming from a large structure about 0.2 AU from here. Looks like a derelict station, possibly human-built." Threx straightened his back. "Prepare a boarding team. The Queen wants proof, let's give it to her." Moments later, sleek black shuttles detached from the Zephyrus and descended toward the massive wreck. The station was half destroyed, its hull covered in scorch marks and holes from long-forgotten battles. No power, no life signs. As the Valari entered, the sound of their boots echoed through hollow corridors. The air was cold and still. Old human markings could still be seen on the walls, faded English letters and warning signs. Primitive language, muttered one of the soldiers. But then, the lights flickered. The team froze. A low metallic hum filled the station. Consoles began to light up one by one. The lead soldier raised his plasma rifle. "Something's powering up," he warned. From the darkness ahead, footsteps echoed. Slow, deliberate, heavy. Then a figure emerged from the shadows. He was tall for a human, wearing damaged but functional armor with a cracked visor. A faded emblem on his shoulder showed a blue phoenix rising from fire, UNSC Phoenix Division. His voice, though tired, was firm. "You shouldn't have come here." The Valari soldiers stepped back in shock. The human raised a weapon unlike any they had seen, an ancient kinetic rifle that still hummed with deadly precision. Captain Threx spoke, trying to sound confident. "Identify yourself, creature. You are trespassing in Valari-controlled space." The man gave a dry laugh. "Valari-controlled space? That's funny. You're standing on human graves, Captain." The silence that followed was thick. When the Valari opened fire, the human moved like lightning. He rolled behind cover, his shot striking with surgical accuracy. The Valari rifles burned holes through walls, but the man's bullets found armor gaps. One by one, the aliens fell. Captain Threx tried to retreat, shouting orders, but before he could reach the exit, the human grabbed him by the armor and lifted him effortlessly. "Tell your queen," he said coldly. "The humans are not gone. We were just waiting." With that, he threw the captain aside, smashed the shuttle's engine, and vanished into the wreckage. Days later, the queen sat on her throne again, reading the final report from the Zephyrus. Only a single emergency beacon had returned, carrying fragments of data. The last images from Threx's helmet camera. The recording showed the dark figure standing among the flames. A human soldier, his armor battered but his stance unbroken. For the first time in many centuries, Queen Serathis did not speak. She simply stared at the image in silence. The myth, it seemed, had teeth, and deep within her mind a new thought began to form. What if humanity was never truly gone? The silence of the Valari Palace Hall was deep and uneasy. Queen Serathis stood before a large holographic display that showed the wreckage of the Zephyrus, her scout vessel that had vanished in the Mornak Belt. Around her, ministers and generals waited for her command, but no one dared to speak first. The hologram flickered, showing the final seconds of the ship's recorded feed, flashes of gunfire, screams, and a single human figure walking through smoke and flame. His armor was cracked and dirty, his face hidden behind a dark visor. Yet even through the grainy recording, his movements were calm, too calm for a being who had just destroyed an entire Valari squad. Finally, the queen broke the silence. "This human," she said quietly. "He fought alone?" "Yes, my queen," answered General Corrin, lowering his head. The Zephyrus crew counted 20 soldiers fully armed. Not one survived. There were no energy traces from another force. It was him. Serathis turned, her expression unreadable. "One human warrior destroyed an entire team of Valari commandos?" "Yes, my queen," Corrin confirmed. And then he disappeared into the wreckage. The distress beacon activated only after the ship's destruction. The queen walked toward the great window overlooking Valara Prime. Its golden cities shone brightly below, a perfect image of order and power, yet something about the report disturbed her deeply. She had spent centuries believing humans were nothing more than myth, weak, emotional creatures whose history had ended long ago. But this was different. "Send another ship," she ordered finally. "A research vessel this time. I want scans, data, anything that proves what we saw." Corrin hesitated. "Your Majesty, with respect, if that creature is still alive, another team might meet the same fate." Serathis turned her gaze toward him, her silver eyes sharp as glass. "Then we will send someone who can think, not just fight. I want a scientist, a linguist, and an observer. They are not to attack unless fired upon. I want communication." "Yes, my queen." 2 days later, in the distant Mornak Belt, a sleek new ship entered the region. The Valari research vessel Ardent Flame glided silently through the field of wrecks. Unlike the Zephyrus, this ship carried fewer weapons and more scanners. At the command deck, Dr. Ilara Nesh, a soft-spoken xenolinguist, monitored the data feed with sharp curiosity. She'd always been fascinated by extinct civilizations. Now she had the chance to study the most mysterious one of all, Humans. Captain, she said, pointing at her console. We're receiving faint power readings again. Same as before, coming from the largest wreck ahead. The captain, a cautious Valari named Rin Telos, nodded. Maintain distance. Begin drone deployment. Dozens of small silver drones detached from the ship and flew ahead into the debris field. Their cameras transmitted images back to the command deck. What they saw was haunting. An old space station half torn apart, covered in the black scars of battle. Human design was simple and functional, lacking the artistic curves of Valari construction. Everything looked heavy, practical, built for survival. Inside the ruins, the drones floated through long hallways filled with shadows. Frozen human skeletons still sat at old consoles, preserved by vacuum. Dust floated like ash. Then one drone's signal suddenly cut off. Drone 6 lost connection, reported the technician. Last image shows movement near the command deck section. Movement? Captain Rin frowned. There's no life reading. Another drone caught a glimpse of something, a flash of armor. A flicker of motion too fast to track. Then a voice came through the static. Leave this place. The words were clear, spoken in human English. Dr. Ilara froze. That's ancient Terran speech, she gasped. Rin straightened. Translate it, Ilara whispered. It means, leave this place. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Rin opened communication frequencies. Unknown entity, he said in a controlled tone. We are Valari explorers. We mean no harm. We only wish to speak. The radio was silent for a few seconds. Then the same voice replied, deeper this time. Valari, you've come again. I warned the last ones. Who are you? Rin asked. There was a pause, then a single name. Captain Elias Ward, United Nations Space Command. Ilara's hands trembled slightly. He's a human, a living one. Rin's voice remained steady. Captain Ward, the Valari Empire seeks knowledge, not conflict. We believed your species was extinct. Extinct? Ward's tone was calm but cold. That's what everyone wanted, wasn't it? The galaxy erased Earth and thought we'd fade into dust. But some of us refused to die. Ilara leaned closer to the comm. Captain Ward, please, what happened to your people? How did you survive? There was silence, then a quiet sigh. This station was one of our last strongholds. We tried to save what was left of our colonies. But the purge destroyed everything. My crew, they're gone. I stayed. You stayed alone? Ilara asked softly. Yes, Ward replied. Someone had to guard what was left of humanity. The stories, the history, the memories. That's my duty. Rin exchanged glances with his crew. The voice sounded weary, yet proud. There was something in it. An emotion the Valari rarely expressed anymore. Captain Ward, Rin said, we can bring you to safety. The Queen herself wishes to meet you. The human laughed quietly. The Queen, Sarathis. I know her name. My people fought her empire a long time ago. That was a different age, Rin insisted. The Queen only wishes to understand. The radio fell silent again. Then Ward's voice came, softer but firm. Tell your Queen this, humanity doesn't kneel. If she wants to understand us, she'll have to come herself. Suddenly, the radar blared alarms. Multiple signatures appeared, small missiles locked onto the ardent flame. Evasive maneuvers, Rin shouted. Explosions flared outside as defense drones activated. We're under attack. But there's no ship. Missiles came from the wreck itself. Ward's voice returned through the comms. I warned you, leave. This place is not yours. The Valari ship struggled to retreat. Half the drones were destroyed. Yet even through the chaos, Ilara stared at her console, recording every word, every sound. He's protecting something, she said. Something inside that station. Finally, the ardent flame escaped the debris field, heavily damaged but still flying. When Queen Sarathis received their report, she listened in silence. The recording of Ward's voice echoed in the throne chamber. Tell your Queen this. Humanity doesn't kneel. The Queen stood, her expression unreadable. This man, she said slowly, defends ruins against entire fleets. He has lived alone for centuries, and yet he stands proud. Archivist Laron bowed. Your Majesty, it is remarkable. He may hold the last knowledge of his race. General Corrin added cautiously. He is also dangerous. He destroyed 2 of our ships without hesitation. Shall we send the fleet? But Sarathis shook her head. No, violence will not win this. This human fought entire empires and survived. If I send soldiers, he will destroy them too. I must see him myself. Her court gasped. Your Majesty, it's too risky. The Queen turned, her silver blue eyes shining. For centuries, we called humans myths. If this one still breathes, then perhaps the myth deserves truth. She stepped down from her throne. Prepare my ship. I will go to the Mornak Belt. Far away on the silent wreck of the old human station, Captain Elias Ward stood on a cracked observation deck, staring into the endless stars. The Valari ship was gone, but he knew it would return. He had seen their kind before. Proud, curious, unable to let go of what they couldn't control. He placed his hand on the cold glass. Beneath the surface of the station, deep within hidden vaults, the last fragments of Earth's knowledge slept. Data crystals, AI cores, human memories. That was what he protected. And now the Queen of the Valari herself was coming. Ward smiled faintly behind his visor. Let her come, he whispered. Maybe it's time the galaxy remembered who we were. The Valari flagship Sovereign's Grace was one of the most advanced ships ever built. Its silver hull stretched for kilometers, glowing softly with the light of distant stars. Inside, hundreds of crew members moved with disciplined precision, preparing for the Queen's journey to the far edge of known space. Queen Sarathis, the Eternal, stood at the viewport, her eyes fixed on the deep void ahead. The Mornak Belt, the resting place of myths, awaited her. Her advisor, Archivist Laren, stepped beside her. My Queen, he said softly, the Council disapproves of this mission. They fear for your safety. Sarathis did not turn to face him. Let them fear. They live in comfort, believing the past cannot touch them. But history has a way of returning, Laron. He nodded respectfully. The human you seek, Elias Ward. Are you certain he still lives? The recordings are unclear. Sarathis's voice was calm but firm. If he does, then he carries the strength of an entire lost species. If he does not, then I will see for myself what remains of them. Either way, I will learn the truth. Laren hesitated, then spoke carefully. Your Majesty, the humans were known for their defiance. They do not kneel easily. A faint smile crossed the Queen's lips. Good. Then perhaps they are not so different from us. The journey to the Mornak Belt took 3 days through hyperspace. When the Sovereign's Grace exited warp, the view outside was breathtaking. The belt glimmered like a field of shattered stars, broken ships, floating ruins, and debris stretching across light years. The ship's scanners immediately detected faint energy readings deep within the wreckage. The same Terran signal repeated just as before. Sarathis gave a single command. Prepare the landing craft. The Queen's small vessel descended through the field of twisted metal, guided by the ship's auto-navigator. With her were Laron and 2 elite guards, their armor shimmering like molten silver. The shuttle landed on the surface of the ruined human station. When the airlock opened, Sarathis stepped into the cold. Silent corridors of human history. The walls were covered in faded markings, English letters and numbers carved into metal. Old human symbols still clung to the doors. Caution, airlock, control deck. Laren whispered, This place feels haunted. The Queen's voice was soft but steady. It feels alive with memory. As they moved deeper into the station, their lights flickered across rusted control panels and shattered display screens. The air smelled faintly of oil and dust. No sound, no movement, only silence. Then suddenly a low hum filled the corridor. Power surged through the station. Lights blinked to life one by one. The old walls seemed to awaken. Someone activated the generators, Laron said, startled. Sarathis raised her hand for silence. He knows we are here. A metallic door ahead slid open slowly, as if by an unseen hand. Beyond it lay a wide command room, its walls lined with holographic screens showing fragments of ancient Earth, cities, oceans, and faces long gone. And in the center stood Captain Elias Ward. His armor was old but well-maintained. The UNSC emblem was scratched but visible. His visor hid his eyes, yet his voice carried strength and calm. So, Ward said, the Queen herself comes to meet a ghost. The guards raised their weapons instinctively, but Sarathis lifted a hand. Lower your arms, she ordered. We are not here to fight, Ward tilted his head slightly. Strange. Your soldiers didn't think that last time. The Queen walked forward unafraid. They acted without wisdom. I came to understand what you are, what I am. Ward repeated, his tone unreadable. I'm just a soldier doing his duty. The last one, maybe. Your people are gone, Sarathis said carefully. Why do you remain? Ward looked at the holographic screens behind him, images of Earth before its fall. Because someone has to remember. If I leave, everything humanity ever was dies with me. There was silence between them. For the first time in centuries, Sarathis felt something she had not known since her youth. Respect. This human, alone for centuries, still guarded his world's memory as if the war had ended yesterday. You fight for ghosts, she said softly. Ward replied, No, I fight for what they meant. Laron stepped forward, curious. How have you survived so long, Captain? Your species was erased thousands of years ago. Ward's helmet turned toward him. Cryosystems. This station had deep hibernation pods. I slept in cycles, woke to maintain systems, and waited for anyone to come. I didn't expect Valari. Sarathi studied him closely. You waited all this time to protect ruins? Not ruins, Ward said. Legacies. He pressed a button on the console. The holograms changed, showing human achievements. Rockets launching from Earth, starships leaving the solar system, colonies on distant worlds. We built from nothing, Ward said quietly. We fought every empire that tried to enslave us. We stood our ground even when the galaxy burned. That's what being human meant. The Queen listened, her expression unreadable. Your kind were dangerous. Too emotional, too unpredictable. That is what the records say. Ward turned to face her. Maybe, but that's why we were strong. We didn't fight because we wanted to conquer. We fought because we refused to kneel. Those words struck something inside her. She remembered her own rise to power, how she had fought the old Valari kings to end their corruption. Perhaps long ago she and this human would have understood each other. You speak of pride, Sarathis said softly. But pride alone cannot rebuild what is lost. Ward looked out the cracked window at the empty stars. No, but it can remind you what was worth saving. Suddenly, one of the guard's sensors beeped. Your Majesty, the guard said sharply. We have multiple ships approaching. Valari energy signatures, military grade. Sarathis frowned. Not from my fleet. Who dares? Ward interrupted. Rogue Valari, maybe? Scavengers have been trying to raid this area for decades. They hunt anything valuable. Within moments, the station trembled as explosions echoed through the metal halls. Ward checked his rifle. They're targeting this place. They'll tear it apart. Sarathis turned to her guards. Prepare for evacuation. Ward shook his head. No, if you leave, they'll follow you. They want the human tech here. If it falls into their hands, they'll use it to build weapons. The Queen glanced at him. Then what do you suggest? Ward pointed toward the lower hangar. There are defense turrets buried beneath this station. Old human designs, but still functional. Help me activate them. Sarathis studied him for a moment. She could sense the honesty in his voice, the same unshakable resolve that defined his kind. Finally, she nodded. Lead the way. Together, they moved through the flickering corridors. Ward moved quickly, confident even in the maze of wreckage. The Queen followed, her guards scanning for hostiles. In the control chamber below, Ward accessed an ancient terminal. Dust rose as the old machine powered up. Come on, he muttered. Don't fail me now. Lights flashed green. Outside, massive human defense turrets rotated to life, their barrels glowing faintly. The rogue Valari fleet descended through the debris, unaware of what awaited them. Ward looked at the Queen. You might want to cover your ears. Then he pressed the trigger. Beams of blinding light tore through space, cutting the raiders apart. One by one, their ships exploded in bursts of fire. Within minutes, the threat was gone. Silence returned to the Mornak belt. When it was over, Sarathis turned to him. You just saved my life. Ward shrugged. Consider it repayment. Your people came here twice. Now we're even. The Queen smiled faintly. You could have destroyed us, but you didn't. Why? Ward replied. Because once, a long time ago, humans believed that mercy was strength. Sarathis looked at him for a long moment. Perhaps your people were not myths after all. Ward said quietly. Maybe myths are just truths forgotten too soon. For the first time, the Queen extended her hand. Then perhaps it's time the galaxy remembered again. Ward hesitated, then took it. The contact between their hands was brief, but it changed everything. The Queen of a galactic empire and the last soldier of Earth stood together, united not by power but by understanding. The Queen of the Valari Empire, Sarathis the Eternal, stood in the ancient hall of the ruined human base. The metal walls were cracked, the air filled with the faint smell of dust and burnt energy cells. In front of her stood Captain Elias Ward, the last human soldier she had ever seen, or ever expected to see. His armor was damaged, scratched from hundreds of battles, but his eyes were steady and calm. Sarathis watched him closely. The stories about humans had always sounded like fiction to her, tales of bravery, madness, and impossible victories. Yet now, seeing this man, she understood why those legends had survived. "You are the last of your kind," she said, her voice smooth and sharp. "You fight alone with no empire, no allies, no future. Why continue?" Ward stood silently for a moment. The faint hum of the ruined base was the only sound. Then slowly he replied, "Because someone has to remember what we stood for." His words were simple, but they carried weight. They struck something deep within Sarathis, a feeling she hadn't experienced in centuries. Pride, honor, purpose. Her guards looked uneasy. To them, the human was a threat, an anomaly that shouldn't exist. One of them, Commander Vale, stepped forward. "My queen, this creature is dangerous. Let me deal with him." Sarathis raised her hand, stopping him. "No, if he is dangerous, let us see how much." Ward gave a small, tired smile. "You want to fight, Your Majesty?" "I want the truth," she replied. With that, she gestured for her soldiers to prepare the arena within the ruins, a large open space surrounded by broken machinery and old battle marks. The queen wanted to test this human herself, but for now she would observe. The arena was dimly lit. The cold light from the moons outside cast long shadows across the ground. 3 Valari warriors stepped forward, each armed with plasma spears and shield generators. They moved with perfect discipline, their silver armor glowing faintly. Ward stood unarmed except for a broken metal rod he had picked up from the floor. Bael laughed quietly. "A primitive weapon for a primitive being." Ward didn't reply. He only adjusted his stance, calm and focused. The queen watched from the side, her golden eyes studying every movement. When the signal was given, the first Valari soldier charged. He moved fast, faster than most creatures could even see. But Ward sidestepped at the last second, twisting the metal rod to knock the spear away. The move was clean, precise, and efficient. The second soldier attacked immediately after, swinging high. Ward ducked under, sweeping the rod across the soldier's legs. The alien fell, armor clanging loudly. Within moments, the human had disarmed both without killing them. He didn't strike out of anger or pride. He moved like someone who had fought 1,000 battles and learned that survival was about control, not rage. The third soldier, realizing brute force wouldn't work, activated his shield and moved carefully. But Ward waited patiently. He studied his opponent's rhythm, watching the energy pulses. Then in one motion he stepped forward, using the broken rod to strike the exact weak point in the shield generator. Sparks flew. The shield collapsed. In less than 2 minutes, the fight was over. The Queen's guards stared in disbelief. None of them had seen anyone, human or alien, move like that. Sarathis stood, her expression unreadable. "Enough," she said softly. "You have proven your point." Ward straightened, breathing slowly. "I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just don't like to lose." Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. "You fight not for victory, but for purpose. That is what made your kind dangerous." Ward looked around at the shattered walls and flickering lights. Dangerous, maybe, but also stupid. We fought until we burned ourselves out. Sarathis walked closer, her long cloak brushing the ground. "And yet here you stand, alive when all others fell." Ward met her gaze. Someone had to guard what was left. For the first time, the Queen felt something she couldn't explain, a quiet respect for this fragile, mortal creature. Her empire had survived for ages through power and fear, but this human had survived through sheer will. Hours later, the Queen and the human sat in what used to be a command room. Dust covered the old consoles and the blue lights flickered weakly. She questioned him about humanity, its fall, its strength, its mistakes. Ward spoke honestly. "We fought too many wars. We reached too far. When the purge came, we were already broken. But even in the end, we didn't stop fighting. We fought because it was in our nature, because we believed something better could exist after us." Sarathis listened quietly. "You believe that even now?" He looked at her. "I have to." If I stop believing, then everything we died for means nothing. The Queen fell silent. For centuries, she had ruled through logic and strategy, never faith. But this man, alone in the dark, carried more conviction than entire fleets. Before she could respond, a warning siren echoed across the base. One of her guards ran in, panic in his eyes. "Your Majesty?" "We are surrounded." Sarethis turned sharply. "By whom?" "Valari ships, but not ours. The mark of the warlord Sirik. He must have tracked your signal. They mean to take the throne while you are away." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Sirik dares challenge me here?" Ward stood, checking his armor. "Sounds like you've got a rebellion on your hands." Sarethis gave a sharp nod. "A traitor, nothing more. But his fleet is vast. We are outnumbered." Ward looked out the broken window at the burning sky. "Then we'll make them regret showing up." Sarethis stared at him. "You would fight beside me?" "You owe us nothing." He shrugged slightly. "I don't do it for you. I do it because tyrants shouldn't win." For the first time in her long life, the Queen felt something almost like admiration. "Then we fight together." Moments later, the skies above the planet filled with light. Dozens of enemy warships emerged from hyperspace, their weapons charging. The Queen's small fleet was already forming defensive positions, but they were hopelessly outmatched. Ward moved through the control room, reactivating old human systems. "Your ships are strong, but your tactics are predictable," he said quickly. "You rely on formations. They'll tear you apart that way." Sarethis raised a brow. "You suggest something better?" He pointed at the holographic map. "Here, your capital ships hold the center. I'll activate the old orbital cannons. They'll think they're dead, but I can get a few working. When they move in close, boom." The Queen smiled. "You think like a predator." "No," Ward replied. "I think like a survivor." Outside, the first shots were fired. The night turned into fire. Ward and Sarethis worked side by side, commanding the defense. Every blast shook the ground, but neither backed down. She watched him move through the chaos with calm precision, giving orders to her troops as if he had been born to lead them. When one of her officers hesitated, Ward shouted through the comms, "Focus your fire. Make them pay for every inch." The Valari soldiers obeyed him without question. For the first time, the Queen saw her people fight with something more than duty. They fought with courage. Hours passed like minutes. The battle raged, but Ward's plan worked. The old human cannons came alive, raining fire upon the enemy fleet. Through the smoke and explosions, the Queen turned to Ward. "You've given my people something I thought long lost, hope." Ward looked at her and smiled faintly. "Don't lose it again." As the last of the enemy ships retreated, Sarethis realized the truth. The legends about humans were not exaggerations. They were warnings. Humanity's strength was not in numbers or power or technology. It was in will. And now, as she stood beside the last of them, she knew the galaxy would never forget that again. She looked toward the horizon where fire still burned and said quietly, "You are no myth, Elias Ward. You are the echo of humanity itself." Ward nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure the echo is loud enough for the stars to hear." And with that, the human and the alien Queen prepared for the final battle that would change the fate of both their races forever. The fires of battle still lit the skies above the ruined human station. Explosions flashed across the horizon as the rogue Valari fleet, led by warlord Sirik, descended like a storm of metal and energy. The Queen's fleet was badly damaged, her ships struggling to hold formation. Inside the control room of the station, Captain Elias Ward moved swiftly. His armor was battered, scratches and scorch marks running across the surface, but his eyes were steady, his mind clear. Beside him stood Queen Sarethis, her expression calm but determined, and Archivist Laron, documenting every moment for history. Ward activated the last of the station's human-built defenses. Orbital cannons, long thought dead, hummed to life. The blue glow of the weapons reflected in his visor. "Your Majesty," Ward said, "this is where we make our stand. We can't run from them. They'll chase us to the end of the galaxy." Sarethis nodded. "Then we fight. Together." Outside, the rogue fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked across space, tearing through the wreckage of moons and old satellites. The Queen's remaining ships returned fire, but the odds were overwhelming. 10-1, Ward didn't hesitate. He sprinted to the control panels, recalibrating the old human defense grid. "I'll handle the cannons. You take the fleet, he said to Sarathis. We hit them where it hurts. Sarathis gave a sharp nod. Do it. The human warrior's fingers flew across the terminals. Ancient human codes and protocols activated weapon systems that the Volari had thought useless. Massive beams of energy tore through enemy ships, exploding them in brilliant fireballs that lit the darkness of the belt. The Queen watched him work and felt something she had not felt in centuries. Awe. This one mortal, one human, was holding back an armada with nothing but skill, courage, and sheer determination. In the skies above, Warlord Sirek's flagship emerged, massive and armored. Its weapons glowed with deadly power. So this is the human the Queen trusts, Sirek sneered through the comms. Foolish. You will die, and your myth dies with you. Ward stepped forward, hands on the console. Tell him he's wrong. My kind does not die so easily. Sarathis joined him, raising her voice across the comms. Sirek, leave this system. You challenge me and you will be destroyed. Sirek laughed. I will take what is mine, Queen. You are weak without your fleet. The human cannot save you. Ward glanced at Sarathis. Let's prove him wrong. The battle escalated. The Volari ships, under Sarathis' command, flanked the rogue fleet. Ward's human orbital cannons cut through the enemy like lightning, striking their vulnerable points with pinpoint precision. Despite the overwhelming numbers, Ward moved with perfect control. He coordinated the remaining Volari ships, issuing commands faster than any standard Volari officer could. His voice, calm and authoritative, guided them through a storm of destruction. One of the rogue ships fired a massive plasma beam aimed directly at the station. Ward calculated the trajectory in seconds. He fired a counterbeam from the orbital cannon, intercepting it mid-space. The collision exploded into a cloud of fiery debris. The Queen watched silently, realizing that the human was not only a warrior, he was a master tactician. Inside the command room, alarms blared. One of the station's support beams had been hit. Sparks rained down. Ward moved quickly to reinforce it, his movements precise. Laren tried to help, but Ward waved him away. Stay out of the way. This isn't about you, he said calmly. It's about survival. Sarathis stood beside him. I've seen fleets destroyed, but I've never seen one person hold back an armada. Ward glanced at her. It's not just me. It's humans, Queen. We never give up. Even if we fall, we make our enemies remember why we existed. Outside, the battle reached its climax. Rogue ships began retreating, their formations in chaos. Ward's orbital cannons fired one last volley, targeting the enemy flagship. The blast hit the warlord's ship directly, tearing through its armor. Explosions rocked the vessel and it began to drift helplessly. Sirek's voice roared across the comms, furious. This is impossible. How can one human? Ward cut him off. Because we are not myths. We are humans. The rogue fleet scattered, retreating to safety, leaving the Queen's battered ships victorious but damaged. Smoke and fire filled the debris field, but the immediate threat was over. When the last enemy ship was gone, Sarathis stepped forward. She looked at Ward, seeing the exhaustion etched into his armor and posture. He had been fighting for centuries, yet he stood firm, unbroken. You fought an entire fleet, she said softly, and you survived. How? Ward shrugged. I don't know. I guess I never gave up. I fought because there was no one else. I fought because it mattered. Sarathis studied him carefully. You are remarkable. Your kind was never supposed to exist. And yet here you are, Ward nodded. Here I am. Maybe humanity isn't gone. Maybe it's just waiting for the right moment. For a long moment, the two leaders stood together amidst the ruins and wreckage. The stars above reflected the fire below, a galaxy that had almost forgotten Earth. And yet here it was again, alive in this one man. The Queen finally turned to her fleet commanders. Record everything. Every tactic, every weapon system, every strategy. The humans have left us a legacy that we must preserve. The galaxy must remember what it means to fight with courage, honor, and purpose. Laron stepped forward, awed. Your Majesty? This is history, Sarathis nodded. Yes, Laren. And history is not written by those who survive easily. It is written by those who refuse to surrender. She looked back at Ward. You will teach us, Elias Ward. You will show us the strength of your people. We will not forget. Ward's visor reflected the glow of the station. I don't know how many humans are left, he said softly. Maybe none. But I can make sure that what we were, what we believed in, lives on. Sarathis placed a hand on his shoulder, a rare gesture of respect. Then the galaxy will remember, and your legend will not be a myth. In the following days, the Queen ordered her scientists to recover all human technology from the ruins. Ancient ships, weapons, archives, and AI cores were cataloged and preserved. Ward guided them, explaining systems that had been dormant for centuries. He shared stories of humanity's victories and failures, their courage in impossible odds, and their belief in hope. The Valari recorded every word, fascinated and humbled by the spirit of a species they had dismissed as myth. The galaxy was listening again. One evening, after the immediate threat had passed, Sarathis and Ward stood on the observation deck, overlooking the glowing wreckage of the Mornak belt. "You said humans were gone," she said quietly. Ward smiled faintly. "Maybe we were, to most of the galaxy. But some of us never gave up. And the galaxy is about to learn that." Sarathis nodded. "Your courage, it has changed me. My empire will never forget Earth, or its last sun." He looked at the distant stars. "I only hope the galaxy remembers the right lessons. Courage, honor, and refusing to bow even when all seems lost." The Queen remained silent for a long time, watching the stars flicker. Then she said softly, "Let the record show that humans were not myths. Let it show that one warrior can remind the universe of what it means to live and fight with honor." Ward's voice, quiet but strong, completed the thought. "Let it show that the human spirit cannot be destroyed." And somewhere across the vast expanse of the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Tales of a lone human warrior, a queen who bowed to courage, and a species thought extinct but now remembered. The humans had returned, not in numbers, not in armies, but in spirit. And the galaxy would never forget it again.